I'm Jan Ozer. I'm speaking today with Krish Kumar, who started as CEO of Wowza back in November of 2024. We're going to discuss where he sees Wowza in the streaming marketplace and where he plans to take it over the next few years. I know you're busy getting ready for NAB, Krish. Thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jen. This is a particularly exciting time to be speaking to you, getting ready for NAB. We've got a pretty interesting session planned for NAB, so hopefully we can discuss some of that pre NAB as well. So, and thanks again for having me in the session.
Okay, why don't you, I have not encountered you before. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. As you mentioned, I'm new to Wowzer. I'm just finishing my first quarter on board. Prior to Wowzer, I was at BrightEdge, where I led that as a SEO and marketing automation platform. And prior to that, I spent many years at Google, both on the cloud side and also on the ad side. So, I've been I'm an Aussie by heart. I've moved here 12 years ago, and I call US home now, but I still have deep roots in Australia.
Did you come up on the business side or the technical side?
I grew up as an engineer, so I've always been a tech. I moved from technical to business, and it's really hard to get me away from sometimes the engineering roots. But yeah, I'm a trained electrical engineer.
Okay. So you've been at Wowza since November, as I said. What made you take that job? What was attractive about Wowza to you?
Yeah, what pulled me to Wowzer was the strong foundation that Wowzer had, right? It's a company that quietly powers some of the most mission critical video experiences in the world. And the thing that was really interesting about Wowzer, it didn't actually get into the space of streaming, but it actually defined the space of streaming. And if you really look at it, right, we pioneered the media server, and we've actually become the backbone of a lot of streams today. When you have companies like NASA, you actually have large broadcasters, and you have Wowzer embedded in a lot of smart devices. So you don't actually get that kind of trust just by accident, right? So, and that's something that really drew me to a Wowzer. That it's something that's earned over the years, and it has a very strong track record of technical excellence. At the same time, another thing that was very exciting is the market, right? Our market is evolving very, very fast, as you know, right? Interactive live video is growing at an incredible pace. All sorts of stats are getting thrown out there. We're talking of trillions of projected value being created, and the audiences are demanding more real-time immersive experiences, right? And if you look at Wowzer where we actually have the right ingredients to lead it into the next wave. And the tech is really proven, right? Wowzer is very extensible, and it's already embedded in a lot of the mission critical workflows, and so it already has the pedigree that was already there. And I think when you see that, right, a strong pedigree and an evolving market, I think that really drew me to Wowzer. And I think and there's so much more opportunity ahead as well when I look ahead, especially when you look at opportunities for video. There are a lot of industries that haven't adopted it, and there's obviously the tailwinds of AI, and really these immersive experiences are going to go out across not just to people but a lot to devices and IoT. So there's a long and strong opportunity for Wowzer as we look ahead.
Okay, when you talk about BrightEdge, that's an SEO type company. Man, it's a very different technology than selling Wowza streaming engine. What about your background do you think is well suited for Wowza? How are you gonna apply that to move Wowza forward?
Well, great question. When I think about that, right, I've always been an engineer at heart. Um, as I've taken on more broader leadership roles, I've always had that build-up mindset that's always stayed with me. And what gets me really going is actually taking a proven technology and bringing into like mission critical environments. And when we look at Wowzer, like the things that we're doing with customers are not just streaming. We're actually streaming some really, really critical aspects of their business. So I think, and then when you take that, and then you are able to scale it in a very reliable manner and take it to end customer with drive value, that's actually really, really exciting for me. And then what's also pretty interesting is, this whole era of AI. It's interesting about my background is I actually wrote my thesis, engineering thesis on AI. At that time, it was about neural networks. That was in '99. I wrote it. I remember
Wow.
my friends were like, "You're crazy. What is this stuff all about?" And I really didn't have a sense of what what was all about. But since then, I've had the opportunity to actually see AI in practice, both at Google and BrightEdge, where I've implemented AI across thousands of customers and really seen the good impact that it can have when actually implemented properly. And seeing its application now, like in our streaming and video world, there's immense value that we can bring to customers. And then secondly, I'm very customer centric, right? I believe that you can't actually make customers successful without a strong grasp of go to market. And that's also been a big part of how I operate, right? It's aligning the technology to the market to the customers. And then on a personal level, I'm pretty outgoing. I love working hands-on with customers. And when you're in a place like Wowza, right, where you're actually powering a lot of these mission critical use cases, you need to show up every day with a lot of heart and a lot of energy. And I think, I absolutely love what I do, and everything that I do would bring a lot of passion into it, like every strategy, every customer interaction. Because at the end of the day, I truly believe that if you truly will not be successful if you're genuinely not all in it or your heart's not in it. So I definitely enjoy this space, and I love bringing mission critical technologies to customers.
Okay. Seems like new CEOs have, at least two priorities. One is, boost short-term sales. One is to, create a profitable future direction. What are you doing to make things happen in the short term?
Ah, you're right. Most CEOs do have to balance, the short-term performance with the long-term vision. At Wowzer, kind of our short-term focus is centered on and really continued around making our customers wildly successful, right? We know that when our customers grow and win, we grow, right? And what really interesting for us is that on average, 34% of customers that are actually on Wowzer have been incredibly successful and have grown. And we're actually incredibly proud of that. And we continue to win the hearts and minds of successful and innovative brands around the world, right? And we, as a company, we've also been very profitable and a very reliable and dependable partner with strong global roots. So I think when you take that, the technical excellence and the dependability and the financial durability, I think, makes Wowzer a really, really good choice for streaming for a lot of the mission critical or larger enterprises and or governments or live streaming environments. So I think, so for in the short term, really want to bring that customer centricity. But if I were to summarize into three things, I think the first is customer success. I think it's very important for us. Secondly, it's about true innovation, right? When you look at our industry, there's there's real innovation that goes out and makes a difference to customers, and we're really focused on that. And there's a lot of things that which I call shiny objects, right? Like may not actually have a lot of impact for customers. So we're not actually focused on that. And thirdly, I think we are also about reinvesting, right? I think we have a strong legacy of basically contributing to the industry and making a lot of streamers successful, and we've been investing in our core competency of being the technology behind any reliable stream. So and that's kind of like the top three areas of focus for me in the short term.
All that stuff existed before you got there. What do you do to drive sales over the next, 3 to 6 months?
I think, and you look at our customer retention rates have been really good, right? I think, and as we actually add value add services on top of that, our retention rates go up. Obviously, that contributes to revenue, right? Our new logo performance has actually been particularly well, or been really, really good, and it's actually accelerating now, especially actually as we've streamlined our engine and our video offerings, right? We actually have very, very clear messaging to market. So we're seeing a lot of momentum in new logos. That also obviously translates to revenue. And I think, when you look at our engineering team, we've actually built it on a very scalable and we've actually built on a modular architecture. And that really drives a lot of speed and efficiency in our engineering organization. So that because of that, we're able to get a lot of innovation and launch velocity and that obviously drives a lot of revenue and also profitability.
So traditionally, Wowza's had at least two products. One is the video cloud, which is a newer product that seems targeted towards less technical users, and then Wowza streaming engine, which obviously is the basics for video cloud, but is much. It feels like the more developer centric product and has been in existence pretty much forever. Do you see that dual focus going forward, and which do you see as more important?
Yeah, I think when you look at our strategy and our overall product strategy, we're really doubling down on our core strength, right? So when you look at Wowzer Streaming Engine, it's, as I said, it's the most flexible, it's the most powerful server out there, and it's able to run on-prem, on the cloud, and in hybrid environments. So we really give our customers a lot of flexibility in actually deploying an engine anywhere, right? Cloud, on-prem, in devices, etc. That kind of deployment flexibility is rare, and it's critical now that as organizations need full control and as they're operating in highly secure and compliant environments, that's something that they actually need or depend on Wowzer for. And Engine is also one of the most used API or the trusted API in the streaming world. It's used largely by enterprises, it's used by governments and platforms globally, right? And you've actually probably seen Wowzer, being or worked on Wowzer without actually realizing that Wowzer was under the hood, right? So that we power everything, right? From major enterprise webinars to videos from International Space Station. And when you have customers literally like NASA and SpaceX and even law enforcement agencies using Wowzer, right? Because it works every time and it can be deployed in any environment, and they're vastly, very, very different environments and use cases. But then as video is becoming more and more mission critical, we're also seeing platforms running into some challenges, right? Using point tools or smaller point products or offshore development. And that's where I think Wowzer also really stands apart, right? We're very compliant. We have a SOC 2 certification, and we've also been the bar for compliance and secure streaming, right? And that's now becoming more and more important as customers are putting video as a core part of their offering or their workflows. But doubling down there doesn't actually mean standing still, right? Beyond Engine, that's where we actually have the video product, right? We've built out this Wowzer Video, and the Wowzer Video is a full service cloud offering, right? It's for customers who want to move fast without actually managing or writing or deploying their own infrastructure, right? And then we complement that with Flow Player, right? So it's a lightweight player with built-in analytics, right? And we're talking billions of hours of streams going through Flow Player today, right? So now when you look at Wowzer, we actually have everything from ingestion, right, to processing, to delivery, to playback, and insights end to end. So really have an end-to-end offering, but targeted at all areas of the market, and we give the users and the developers a lot of flexibility in terms of how they want to run with it. And at the end of the day, right, it's not for us. It's not about just transcoding, right? It's actually about making sure that the video works every single time at every single start. And that's the level of, and we're really focused on delivering that level of reliability that our customers would expect. And that's really where Wowzer delivers, right? And we're staying really true to that, and we're really doubling down on that as a part of our product strategy as well.
The crown jewel, I guess, in a lot of people's minds in the streaming market is media and entertainment, but it's really quite a small market. What are the markets you've mentioned several that you're in already. What are the markets that you see as strategic to your growth going forward that you perhaps aren't in yet?
That's a good question. While media and entertainment is a strong and it's a growing market, right? Especially when you look at areas like live sports, social, and even faith-based streaming, we actually see a lot of growth there. But we actually see some of the largest growth in opportunities in other areas too, as video is actually becoming mainstream into enterprises, right? Industries like security and surveillance, right? Smart cities, public safety, military, right? Are already, I mean, there were some early adopters of Wowzer, but we're actually seeing a lot more demand and adoption from these industries, right? And we've been really, really successful in those spaces, right? I mean, getting into those spaces is not particularly easy. You have to basically, you have to build a compliant piece of software. You have to, be reliable, and you have to be tested and proven for many, many years before you're actually given a chance to do that. So we're seeing more adoption and more use of video in those industries, and then video is actually becoming more mission critical, right? Like you look at healthcare, for example, right? Telemedicine was a big thing during pandemic, but now actually hospitals are actually using it for ICU telemetry for vital signs, right? And they're actually using video for that, right? They're actually using it for, patient diagnostics with ultra low latency. That's mission critical. And then IoT, right? IoT was a buzzword probably a decade ago, but manufacturing, energy, utilities, and these types of industries, are now using it for quality control, safety inspections, and really video actually brings IoT to life, right? And think about it, right? A technician actually using smart glasses and projecting that in over video, and that's something, we saw that as a concept maybe 6 or 7 years ago. That's actually becoming a reality now, right? I mean, we're actually doing that with low latency streaming, right? We're embedding it to all sorts of use cases, and that I think that portability with Wowzer actually makes it very, very attractive for some of these segments. We're embedded in drone-based surveillance systems, right? Connected to healthcare devices, right? And even teleoperated robotics was a use case that I saw 2 weeks ago, which was pretty exciting, right? And once again, the part of the reason why Wowza fits in so well with these industries is because we do have that flexibility of embedding, running in the cloud or running on-prem, connected or disconnected, and our APIs are deeply extensible, right? So that actually, really opens that opportunity up to a lot of other industries in addition to media and entertainment, right?
It's a pretty crowded and often confusing market. I mean, you've got AWS kind of somewhere. You play in AWS, you play standalone. You've got a lot of media server, technologies out there. How would you draw up the landscape of this market, and where do you put Wowza in that landscape?
Yeah. I think when you think about this, it's and just building on your last question, I think when you and when you look at where some of the players there, I think the future of video is actually really wide open, right? It's not just about media and entertainment and streaming. It's about video is now is about real-time visibility, and it's about decision making, and it's about trust, right? And as industries are evolving, video is just not a nice to have, right? It's foundational. And I think Wowz has actually been always strong there. And then that's where you see a lot of entrants that are approaching the market with a very, very different perspective, right? So when you start looking at that landscape, it's really interesting. The streaming space is particularly broad, and when I look at competition, it's very important to kind of break it down in the product category and the deployment model, right? Wowza operates across several layers of the video stack. So the landscape does shift depending on which space that you're looking at. Like, and I'll give you an example here, right? In the OVP and the cloud platform space, right? You'll see well-known brands like Brightcove, Vimeo, Kaltura, JW Player, right? And when you look at these companies, while they may seem like competitors, they're actually not. They're actually, they're actually have their own branded video services that actually leverage, a lot of them use actually Wowza under the hood to handle the most demanding parts of streaming, right? So while we actually may look like competitors, we actually work as partners. And for Wowza, that speaks volume, right? Because people actually trust the technology, and we are actually powering a lot of those critical workflows. And each one of these offerings are offering it very different. Some are, and different segments. Some are focusing on education, others are focusing on marketing and so forth. And they actually have different architectures for their clouds or the CDNs. But they're able to fit Wowzer into that equation because of that flexible deployment model. On the infrastructure side, we see, competitors like Amazon Media Services, which provide managed streaming capability and which is obviously integrated into their cloud ecosystem. That's good, right, for specific workloads, but often that comes with a lot of rigidity. Obviously, tied to one cloud, not being able to actually move containers across different offerings and tailor it. And that's where if you want to basically highly customize it, even embed it, it's something that you can't do with providers such as Amazon. So that's where we're able to actually differentiate ourselves quite a lot and actually carve ourselves out in that segment, right? And we have a lot of customers that want complete control over the infrastructure, and I think that's where Wowza's well set up to succeed.
So you've mentioned a couple of times about the insights available from Flow Player. Could you be more specific? How are your customers benefiting from that information?
Yeah, I think when you start looking at Flow Player, I think it's not just about the player, right? It's about the analytics that customers are drawing from that player information. And when you start looking at analytics, I think there's a huge opportunity here, right? I think, when you start looking at companies like Amazon and YouTube and Netflix, right? They're actually using deep analytics to optimize every frame or every delivery. And it's for them, it's not just about performance or viewer engagement or content investment decisions, right? At Wowza, we're down that path, right? With obviously with Flow Player, we've built in QoE metrics like rebuffering, count on video start time, and our customers are using it to proactively manage that viewer experience. So for example, I'll give you an example is a telehealth platform that was built on Wowza that uses this data to actually capture live consults, right? Medical consults, and basically then takes the analytics of that. And for them, a slight delay in start, right? Like sub 1 second delay in start can impact that care delivery. So they're actually continually looking at that analytics from the player and actually optimizing the network performance on that. So I think that's a hard use case, but that actually shows that what's actually possible when you actually are doing a player that's integrated with the video offering. Um, and I think that's actually a big part of it. And then the other area that we actually see a lot of opportunity is automating, right? We're working with a lot of partners that are actually using forensic interviews or proctoring tests, and for them, right, the compliance aspect of that is very, very important. Frame by frame compliance, right? And audibility. So in those scenarios, it's not just about the smooth delivery, but it's actually more about understanding the usage, the tracking of that event integrity, so to speak, right? Like, are you taking the test properly? Are you actually interviewing under stress? And having that player analytics and flagging the anomalies and all those anomalies before into the workflow is very, very important. And that's where I think the player analytics provides a lot of confidence and accountability in the sensitive on regulated environments, right? So looking ahead, I see a huge potential in automating this. For example, we know when we start applying that into a network scenario, right? How can we dynamically now reroute the traffic based on QoE trends or detecting viewer drop-offs and recommending content adjustments, whether it's ads or otherwise, right? And today we actually have the technology to be able to do that, right? With Flow Player and Engine integrated. And as our users are evolving the use case and thinking about what's actually now possible with it. So that's actually, these are some examples where I think the Flow Player is very, very useful and very strategic when actually used as a part of our video and engine offerings.
Okay. Well, since you mentioned your dissertation on AI, I feel like I need to ask at least one or two questions about that. Where do you see AI being integrated into the, Wowza streaming engine and that whole product category or stack? Where is it today, and where do you see it, coming in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, I don't think it'll be 2025 if I haven't heard AI 20 times in my day. For us, we're already seeing AI in action, right? I think folks tend to over amplify AI. I mean, and when you look at our development and what we've been doing, most of our modules actually sit on a lot of the core AI processing, whether it's using cloud-based AI models or whether it's using our own TensorFlow-based models, etc. So we're already seeing AI in action, right? And I'll give you some concrete examples here, whether it's captions, translations, alternate audio, or even things like smarter encoding using scene-based optimization. Those are things that we are today doing using AI, right? Does the customer naturally need to know that it's getting an AI? Maybe, but ultimately they're actually getting a lot more throughput. They're actually getting better performance and actually getting better, cost reduction by that. And then also I think when you look at kind of our future roadmap, AI is also about giving better discoverability, auto-generating metadata. I think we're doing that now as a part of a limited release, understanding moods, and even helping places feel natural as they so those are things like vision enhancements, as I call it, is going to be a big part in our industry, right? And customers are going to look at different ways of monetizing it and taking that out. And then in the future we'll actually see, and we're actually seeing that with some of our partners, fully personalized ads, right, that are generated in YouTube in real time. I mean, YouTube, for example, has actually done a very good job at it, and I think the industry will actually follow there in hyper targeted personalized ads in real time as audience demands changes, right? So those are some of the things that even on the monetization side, I think AI can really, really help, right? So
I think you mentioned some of this, but the data you're getting back from Flow Player seems pretty fertile ground for AI integration and then taking action based on that data.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're capturing things frame by frame, and now, and the great thing is that we're actually giving customers access to that, right? So they can actually then, and what's actually more interesting is if you look at our deployment models, they can then actually overlay that on top of their own intelligence or their own models or their own cloud models, right? Like a lot of the hyperscalers are obviously promoting their own versions of visual models, and using our APIs, we're now actually exposing flow player or player data in real time that can be processed and applied and enhanced according to the way the customers like it. So we see that as a huge opportunity across all industries, right? Whether it's live events, sporting events, or actually, mission critical events where you're able to apply AI and smooth and get a better predictive outcome. So
Okay. So this is your first NAB with Wowza, and I want to make sure you're ready for it. So give me the 30-second elevator pitch for Wowza.
wow, you've really put me on the spot now. All right, so my marketing team might not be happy with me, but basically, I think the way I think about it is Wowza powers mission critical streaming infrastructure behind some of the most demanding video applications in the world. Some of the things that we spoke about, right? Whether you're building a global video platform or deploying a low latency stream for a healthcare or security, or embedding that video into a custom workflow, Wowzer is super flexible. It's developer first building block that gives us full control over how video is ingested, processed, and ultimately delivered. Right. So the way I think about it, and you'll probably see some of this at NAB, is that we support every protocol. We run anywhere, whether it's cloud, whether it's on-prem or hybrid, and we can scale it from a single stream to millions of viewers. Right. And the way I think about Wowzer is video is critical to your business, then the Wowzer is actually the engine that's proven and makes it work.
Okay. It's a long elevator ride, but I think you got it in there. Um,
Yeah, it's a very long elevator. It's a 100-story ride. Yeah.
Listen, thanks for taking the time. Good to connect.
Always fun talking to you, Jan. Thank you very much for having me.